The New South Wales government in crisis. Tonight, the entire National Party, almost a third of MPs, break away. Now the Premier has served them with an ultimatum. Get back in line or get out. Border bureaucracy, a woman banned from her father's funeral as Queensland's harsh rules come under fire again. Anger in court at a shock decision. 2 men cleared over the brutal daylight murder of bikie boss Mick Howie. Our exclusive interview with league star Curtis Scott, tasered by police, cleared by a court. A week lost at sea, enormous relief. 2 fishermen back to safety. And playing with fire, a dangerous new crime wave. Thieves stealing the wires from power lines.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. A very ugly split is threatening to derail the Berejiklian government tonight as Deputy Premier John Barilaro and his National Party colleagues declare mutiny. It's not over COVID, but a protest about koala protection. They've threatened to sit on the crossbench but not give up cabinet positions. The Premier says they must make a choice by 9 a.m. tomorrow or she'll sack the lot of them.
A united front to divide the coalition.
We don't get in trouble today.
The Deputy Premier wasn't wrong.
The National Party room this morning agreed to a number of actions. One, that the National Party will not attend joint party room.
The Nationals walking out on the Liberals.
Effectively, it's put all members on the crossbench in a roundabout way.
But not really.
We're not on the crossbench. We are still in government.
All Nats MPs but one instead vowing not to support government legislation or attend parliamentary leadership meetings, but not coughing up their ministries.
Again, we need to be at the cabinet table. We need to be in ERC to fight.
A fight against planning laws to protect koala habitat.
We're not anti-koala, and this idea that somehow the National Party is anti-koala is wrong.
They say the policy too heavily restricts landowners' rights to use and develop their land.
The idea that somehow that this is an attack on farmers is just patently untrue.
The Premier summoned her deputy to a meeting to explain.
We've had what meeting are you talking about?
With the Premier.
Oh, well, I hope we get a resolution.
Labor also demanding answers.
I'm asking the Premier to confirm whether she has a stable, functioning government.
Senior Liberals clearly frustrated.
I don't want the National Party to do anything that would jeopardise the government.
Ultimately, you want to have these discussions inside Cabinet, you want to have these discussions inside the party room.
Ahead of their meeting, government sources were adamant the Premier would not back down, demanding Mr Barilaro either withdraw his threat or else resign and be stripped of the Nationals' cabinet positions.
You would love the story to be today that the Liberals win by taking our ministries. That's the last thing that's going to occur.
This time, he could be wrong. The Premier issuing an ultimatum late this afternoon saying he and his colleagues have until 9 a.m. tomorrow to indicate to me whether they wish to remain in my cabinet or else sit on the crossbench. They cannot do both. If required, I will attend Government House tomorrow and swear in a new ministry.
And Alex Hart joins me now from State Parliament. Alex, what a day. What will the Nationals do now?
Well, Mark, I can reveal that the Nationals have been holding an emergency party room meeting late today that began around 5:15. Some of them do appear to be getting cold feet, especially those ministers who could soon lose their jobs. There have even been suggestions of a possible challenge to John Barilaro's leadership. Either way, it's quite clear from the Premier's extraordinary statement that if he does not back down, then he will not be the Deputy Premier tomorrow. It's worth remembering that Gladys Berejiklian did not want this fight. Her government now thrust into turmoil while trying to guide the state through a once-in-a-century pandemic and all over koala planning laws. It is a shocking look. The people of New South Wales have every reason tonight to be shaking their heads. Mark.
Yeah, truly extraordinary. Alex, thank you. There's more border heartache tonight. Authorities refused to release a young woman from hotel quarantine in Brisbane to drive just 30 minutes to attend her father's funeral. The Queensland Premier refused to budge but granted a small concession after a desperate phone call from the Prime Minister.
At a Brisbane cemetery, family and friends gather to farewell cancer victim Bernie Prendergast.
There are many special people in Bernie's life who cannot be with us today due to the pandemic.
But one critical person was missing, his 26-year-old daughter, locked up in quarantine 10 kilometres away 15 floors up.
I have cried every single day this month.
Canberra-based Sarah had been trying to see her battling dad for Father's Day, knowing he didn't have long. They gave approval 2 days after he died. And to make matters worse, she was denied access to the funeral today.
Told me that I'm not even supposed to be in Queensland because the exemption was to see my dying father, not to go to the funeral. I was shaking. Did I hear it right? Did I just get declined to go to my dad's funeral?
An emotional Prime Minister decided to intervene.
Surely, in the midst of all of this heartache in COVID, surely just this once, this can be done.
He rang Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk. She refused to budge.
And this divisiveness and these fights and this intimidation and this bullying is the worst I've ever seen in my lifetime, Mr. Speaker.
Critics said it was the Premier bullying Sarah.
I don't know. I have no words for her. I don't even want to talk about her.
It is just sickening what this girl has been put through.
The pressure worked. Queensland Health allowing Sarah a last-minute dash in full PPE, not to the funeral, but to view her father's body. Alone and grieving, and this on National Are You OK Day.
Because the last thing I would want to happen is to have an outbreak at a funeral.
And the exemptions given for the AFL and movie stars like Tom Hanks?
I've given exemptions for people in entertainment and film because that's bringing a lot of money into this state.
A last-minute compromise also offered to terminal cancer patient Mark Keynes in Brisbane, desperate for his 4 Sydney-based kids to visit before he passes. The family have now been told they can drive to Brisbane, go into 2 weeks hotel quarantine, then put all 4 kids in full PPE before being picked up by a government vehicle and taken to visit their dad. A scheme the family calls so elaborate and expensive, they're deliberately trying to keep them away. The cost, $16,000.
My wife turned around and said to myself, so what you're expecting us to pay is more money to visit him than what's going to cost to bury him.
Across New South Wales, there are 7 new COVID cases tonight, 2 in hotel quarantine, 1 more student at St Paul's College Greystanes, 2 more linked to Concord Hospital, a staffer and a close contact.
There are now 14 people associated with Concord and the emergency department who have tested positive.
They've now activated a surge plan, recruiting staff from RPA and Canterbury hospitals. 2 other cases visited the eastern suburbs Legion Club, where at least 3 are now infected, and authorities looking for a 4th who may have been the source.
And Chris Reason joins me now. Chris, you have more details on that young lady barred from attending her father's funeral.
Mark, that's right. Sarah Casper has now returned to a hotel, unable to see her mother, her sister, any of her family, absolutely gutted that she couldn't go to that funeral today to farewell the man who taught her how to cook, how to bake, how to drive, the man she wanted to lead her down the aisle when she got married. She would have been prepared to even stand away from that funeral service and watch it from afar. She now says she's back in hotel quarantine and she's not allowed to leave there for another 8 days before she finally gets home to Canberra. And another flashpoint likely to come up soon, Mark. The case of that young surfer that was killed in the shark attack on the Gold Coast on Tuesday. Members of his family live down here in New South Wales, including his mother. Will Queensland let them cross the border?
Another battlefront looming. Chris, thank you. 2 men accused of the execution-style shooting of former Comanchero bikie boss Mick Howie outside a Rockdale gym have been found not guilty. That's despite evidence of their DNA being linked to the crime.
Freedom for the accused getaway car driver Jamal Elgitis, no doubt elated to walk from court.
What did you think of the verdict when it finally came down?
Mr Elgitis got no comment.
But for Howie's sister, the 2 not guilty verdicts meant anger and agony.
The justice system failed us once again.
The accused gunman, lone wolf bikie Yusuf Nazlioglu, found not guilty of pulling the trigger in the 2018 shooting of former Comanchero bikie boss Mick Howie, slain in the car park of a Rockdale gym the day after Valentine's Day. Lawyers argued even though their DNA was found inside balaclavas used by the killers, these 2 must have worn them previously.
What's it like to be standing outside in the fresh air?
Elgitis' DNA was found inside the second getaway car. His lawyer said the panel beater may have worked on that very same vehicle, leaving his DNA inside long before the hit. Just one of the arguments that convinced the jury he's not guilty.
Do you have anything to say to Mick Howie's family?
But it hasn't been a complete failure for prosecutors. One of the men who police say organised the hit on Hawi, Ahmed Dowda, has pleaded guilty to being an accessory after the fact to his murder. He'll now be sentenced next week. With no avenues of appeal following today's acquittal, unless police charge someone else with pulling the trigger, all Mick Hawi's killers will never face justice. Evan Batten, 7 News.
A Sydney magistrate has recoiled in horror after witnessing the moment NRL player Curtis Scott was tasered by police. He can be heard screaming in police body cam vision, having already been pepper sprayed in the face. The vision was released after the magistrate ruled his arrest was illegal.
It was the lowest point of a young man's life.
Oh.
Searing pain, capsicum sprayed in the eyes.
Get off me! Oh.
Curtis Scott illegally handcuffed and surrounded by 4 officers.
Stand the up.
Stand up, you stupid idiots. If you just stand up, it won't hurt anymore.
But he can't. He's then hit with 50,000 volts.
You lash out once more. You lash out again, I'll tase you again.
It all happened less than 100 metres from NRL headquarters after a heavy drinking session for Curtis Scott on Australia Day. There was more vision. Crikey, I don't have the stomach to see it again, the magistrate said. Today's body cam released after she ruled his arrest was unlawful.
Stop!
Don't resist, mate.
Don't resist.
Curtis Scott doesn't remember how he got to Moore Park, but security cameras captured him stumbling through Paddington. In his frustration at being lost, he threw his phone at a taxi and kicked a bicycle which was tied to a pole.
For which he apologised. Being capsicum sprayed and handcuffed, that's much more worse than anything I can do to you or punishment I can dish out.
What's the word? It was gruesome. It was horrible.
The magistrate dismissed the charges and will consider awarding him legal costs of up to $100,000. In an exclusive interview with Chief League reporter Michelle Bishop, Curtis Scott says it's a massive weight off his shoulders.
It's been a really long 9 months for myself, and I'm happy it's finally come to an end.
He'll return to Canberra to play NRL.
Put my whole career on the line to clear my name, and that was a risk I was willing to take.
Leonie Ryan, 7 News.
There's renewed hope in the development of a coronavirus vaccine. The British patient who suffered a reaction is now recovering well and will be released from hospital soon. The Health Minister says Australia is still on track to obtain the vaccine by early next year. But the boss in charge of manufacturing says don't bank on it.
Headlines that had the Health Minister reaching for the phone.
Having spoken with the Chairman of CSL, I know that they are very confident.
Spoken with CSL Chair Brian McNamee after he sounded less than confident in those newspapers, warning we can't bank on a vaccine and we have to learn to live with COVID.
All of us, all of the time, are very cautious.
Not all the time.
There will be a vaccine. One way or another, there will be a vaccine.
CSL would manufacture both the Oxford and Queensland University vaccines if they pass clinical trials.
I'm hopeful that we will actually have a vaccine that will be some degree of effective.
Mr Hunt revealing yesterday's suspension of the Oxford-AstraZeneca trial was the second caused by adverse reactions. The first was unrelated to the vaccine. The latest is unknown.
Undiagnosed at this point in time and undetermined as to the cause of the particular event.
The patient's expected to be released from hospital tomorrow, with the trial expected to resume within days. 90% of vaccine trials fail, but with 170 candidates in development worldwide, there's hope that at least one coronavirus vaccine will make it through.
It is a reminder that Australia should have more than just a couple of irons in the fire.
Testing times. Mark Riley, 7 News.
After almost 5 days missing at sea, 2 South Australian fishermen who were presumed dead are now back on dry land. One told of the scary moments they faced in treacherous seas, but only after hugging family and being handed a beer.
With a sheepish smile and a cheeky wave, Derek Robinson's hellish misadventure finally comes to an end.
How does it feel to be back on dry land, Derek? Emotional. Very much emotional.
A tearful embrace with his sons and brother. A cold beer never tasted so good.
Oh, hey, thanks, man.
Given up for dead, this is the moment rescue crews realised Derek and his mate Tony Higgins were very much alive and their boat still in one piece.
I shouldn't ask to come and get rescued. We knew exactly where we were, mate.
They set off from Coffin Bay last Thursday. On Friday night, they phoned a friend saying engine trouble was forcing them to divert to KI. The alarm was raised Sunday, sparking a massive search, but after 4 days, it was called off at 7 last night. 3 hours later, police received the phone call they'd been so desperately waiting for.
I wasn't worried. Me and my deckhand, we weren't worried one way or the other, mate. We knew where we were going. We were just trying to get here.
With family waiting anxiously on the shore,
when I heard it, I burst out crying. I don't know if I want to hug him or if I want to go up and kick the out of him.
I haven't been able to stop crying for 2 days. I've been devastated.
Derek and Tony didn't know what all the fuss was about.
I wouldn't mind actually just back off out there again, actually, after this lot.
Why is that?
Well, mate, I don't like being famous at all.
Mark Mooney, 7 News.
President Trump has admitted he intentionally downplayed the coronavirus threat, now claiming he wanted to avoid triggering panic across America. In a series of taped conversations for a book, the president revealed he knew it was deadly at the beginning of the pandemic, but didn't sound the alarm to the public. Today he tried to defend that decision against claims he betrayed his country.
President Trump stepping forward with a public explanation.
We don't want to have to show panic. We're not going to show panic.
After this private revelation on what he actually knew about the severity of COVID-19.
It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. So this is deadly stuff.
In taped on-the-record conversations with veteran journalist Bob Woodward, the president confirmed the extreme dangers of coronavirus back in February.
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one.
A national security advisor described the virus outbreak to the commander-in-chief as the biggest national security threat he will face in his presidency. But this was the public message at the time.
When it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you...
Sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
Total COVID cases are racing towards 6.5 million. Total deaths surging towards 190,000.
The president has never lied to the American public on COVID.
His rival calls it a despicable dereliction of duty.
He failed to do his job on purpose. It was a life and death betrayal of the American people.
But in the home stretch of a hard-fought campaign, one bright spot, a second Nobel Peace Prize nomination for strengthening ties between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. In the United States, David Woodward, 7 News.
American soldiers have opened fire on Australian soil, all in the name of military cooperation. A multinational defence training exercise has been underway in the top end for the past few months. Now the troops are shipping out.
Under an Australian sun, American soldiers bring out the big artillery. For the past 3 months at the Mount Bundy training area near Darwin, US Marines have joined Australian defence personnel in joint training exercises.
The opportunity to get into the field together and to see how they work and how they operate with each other is absolutely invaluable.
Exercise Coolandong has just wrapped up. It's all part of the annual Marine Rotational Force. In the past 8 years, the program has grown from just 200 US Marines to 1,200, training for combat and aid missions.
You're usually there to help out people who don't really have the means to help themselves at that moment due to national disasters.
Working together
and Blur 01 cleared hot
to coordinate troops and technology.
The relationship that we have had with the United States will extend for many, many years.
But experts say this training is also a show of strength and solidarity in the region, with the Chinese flexing their own military muscle in the South China Sea.
There's a lot of stakeholders in this part of the world who don't want to see any sort of aggression, who don't want to see anyone throwing their military weight around, but who are prepared to do something about it if it does happen in the worst case.
Andrew Denny, 7 News.
Time now for a check on our weather. Here's Brownie.
Lots of sunshine today, Fergo, and we are expecting slightly warmer conditions tomorrow. But at the moment in our city, you'll notice it's sitting on 15 degrees. Feels like 11 degrees in the wind. As we go to the radar, sky clear over us at the moment. But earlier today, the odd convective shower just sailed in from the Tasman Sea. There it goes, right up onto the coast, brought onshore by that southeasterly breeze. To the north, we have vast areas of rain that, have been affecting large parts of our state today. It's all been driven by a low pressure trough that is contracting north. But for us tomorrow, looks like mostly sunny conditions for your Friday with just a gentle northeasterly breeze. Temperature-wise, well, our model paints the following. You'll notice the forecast maxima, low 20s at best. It should be cooler right along the coastal fringe. Of course, I'll have the weekend weather in detail. Top of the hour, Fergo.
Looking good, Brandy. Thank you. Police have smashed a major drugs ring operating in Sydney's southwest. Next, an illegal lab, millions of dollars in drugs and 2 men behind bars. The terrifying moment, a fireball erupted in the middle of a bushfire emergency. Later, playing with fire, the thieves putting their lives on the line. And in sport, an injury blow for the Eels ahead of their showdown with the Panthers. Welcome back. A man in his 70s has died after being pulled from the water at Redleaf Beach in Double Bay this afternoon. Paramedics performed CPR on the man, but he could not be saved. It's believed he suffered a medical episode while in the water. 2 accused drug producers are behind bars tonight after police uncovered a commercial lab in Sydney southwest. The men were allegedly working for a bikie gang, producing hundreds of thousands of pills bound for music festivals.
En route to his alleged secret drug lab, Bennett Jolly is pulled from his van and taken in. The 41-year-old is accused of producing the drug MDA for mass sales across the country. His arrest yesterday, 6 months in the making. Detectives say he was a super cook for the Rebels bikie gang, and this Moorebank industrial unit was his kitchen.
The lab was set up that it would continue to manufacture large commercial quantities.
Jolly's co-accused Bilal El-Badar was also taken in. Police say the pair was pushing the drugs to young people.
This type of pill is headed for the entertainment sort of area, so we have around music festivals, young people.
MDA is part of the ecstasy family, but is more potent.
Just a couple of splash blankets.
Investigators have found enough chemicals and commercial equipment here to make more than 200,000 pills worth $4 million. The lab was so well set up, it's taken police and firefighters 2 days to pull it apart. Today, the pair faced a magistrate at Liverpool Court. They didn't apply for bail and they'll remain locked up before their matters are heard again next week. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
Hundreds of homes are gone and now at least 6 people are dead as devastating fires rage along America's west coast. They're burning from the Mexican border right up to Canada. The focus tonight is in Oregon, where 5 towns have been all but destroyed, and the governor is bracing for a record death toll.
The fires came with an explosive fury. Gusting winds fueling multiple infernos, engulfing several towns in the state of Oregon. Tens of thousands of people suddenly forced to flee. This mobile home park wiped out. Residents returning to find nothing left.
This is what I've got.
What you're wearing right now.
This is what I've got.
The state's governor called it unprecedented.
Could be the greatest loss in human lives and property due to wildfire in our state's history.
A 12-year-old boy and his grandmother among the dead. In Washington state, a 1-year-old was killed, his parents critically injured.
The whole mountain exploded.
The strong winds whipping up flames in California, burning through the dry bush towards communities, sparking more nighttime evacuations and lucky escapes.
There was fire 360 degrees around me.
Firefighters battling through the day with every weapon they have. The fires and smoke spread right along America's west coast. Cities like San Francisco shrouded in an orange haze, the sky filled with the ominous proof of a disaster still unfolding. In the United States, Paul Kadak, 7 News.
A family's home has been levelled in a suspected gas explosion. The two-storey house was demolished, but the couple and their baby who lived there had just moved out, leaving the next-door neighbours to cop the brunt of it.
By the time I made it in my room to try to get my stuff to get up out of there, I fell down the steps trying to get out the house because my house went up in flames.
Both families have lost everything. Their violent death at the hands of their own father shocked our city. Next claims 2 murdered Sydney teenagers were let down by their own lawyer. Also, a new blew over the Opera House with a state minister said to be at war with police. An extremely close call for a fisherman as a giant whale plays just metres from his boat. And giving the gift of music, personalised songs direct to your inbox. That's next. Welcome back. An inquest into the murders of 2 teenagers by their own father has heard their court-appointed lawyer insisted they see him during a family court battle. A year later, John Edwards shot dead his children Jack and Jennifer. The inquiry looking to see if much more should have been done to protect them from a man with a long history of violence.
There has been criticism of the firearms registry that gave John Edwards guns, police who failed to investigate him. Today, a grilling for the lawyer supposed to represent the interests of the children he would later murder, Jack and Jennifer. Assessing risk is not part of my role, said Debbie Morton, the teenagers' solicitor appointed by the family court. So, in 2016, she argued the children should spend time with Dad, even though counsellors believed domestic violence allegations needed to be investigated first. Do you agree because you're not a psychologist you need to give weight to the views of people who are? Yes. A report showed the children themselves did not want to see their father because he was physically violent, got very angry and mistreats Jennifer's pets. Miss Morton also dismissed the significance of an AVO by another of his children. The complaint wasn't that he caused harm to her, just that he was an annoyance. But that AVO described alleged abuse during childhood, fearful, scared to return home.
The justice system is supposed to protect the vulnerable. Just 4 days into this inquest, it is clear whomever Olga Edwards turned to for that protection, the firearms registry, domestic violence police and the children's own court-appointed lawyer, failed to recognise the danger they were in. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
The Opera House is at the centre of another fight. It's over the sails lighting up in blue for Police Remembrance Day, with claims the Arts Minister opposed the tribute. The request for the event was made just days before Don Harwin was fined by police.
Surely this has got to be above politics. Commemorating the 274 fallen police officers in this state.
Don Harwin has rejected the claims, saying he was never opposed, adding that the sails will light up on September the 29th. The Prime Minister's wife, Jenny Morrison, has urged women to get checked for cancer as part of Women's Health Week. As testing rates plunged during the pandemic, it's feared too many women are missing the chance to catch serious problems early.
37-year-old Kathy Rhodes has just started 7 weeks radiation therapy. The mother of one has stage 3 cervical cancer.
There's a chance that I might not be here in 12 months' time, so the chance to save my life happens now.
Only because of recent screening.
I would say to anyone who's putting it off, please don't.
After a rare public statement from Australia's First Lady about the impact of COVID.
The evidence is that women are putting off their health checks, pap tests, mole checks, mammograms, and so much more.
During the pandemic, mammograms and pap smear tests have fallen by as much as 67%. For many women, less of a priority.
They tend to put themselves last, particularly in the family setting.
Or not going to GPs because of COVID concerns, despite safety precautions in place.
It's probably a safer time than ever to come in and get other tests done.
Jenny Morrison, a former nurse, says it's time to get up to date.
Don't let it be the year where we say, I'll put that off, because your health is so important to you and those around you.
From Kirribilli House, an appeal from the Prime Minister's wife to women across Australia that when it comes to their health, now is not the time to let their guard down. Ensuring women like Kathy Rhodes and her family have a fighting chance.
I'm confident that I'm giving it everything in my very best shot.
Chris Marr, 7 News.
For many, gift giving is a high-stakes game. Often, the biggest obstacle is finding something unique. Now there's a new platform where you can commission a song and have it written and recorded by professional musicians.
A message from Mum.
And get off the earth, Mum.
One-of-a-kind songs.
Won't you eat your dinner now?
That Claire Humphreys had made for her boys, written and recorded by professional musicians.
I'm quite thrilled with the result. Like I said, the boys hate it, but I thought it was brilliant.
It's called Song Glorious. This is how it works. You go to the website and pick the genre, length and the mood, most importantly who it's for and the occasion. The company then collaborates with artists to make your song. It's ready within 4 days. The track can be downloaded or published to a music website.
I was so sad.
Henry Hansen is the first Australian musician to get on board.
A lot of them are, birthday or anniversary presents. Probably done about 25.
The price of a custom song starts at about $60 and, depending on its length, could go up to about $260, which is not bad considering it costs several $100s a day to hire out a recording studio like this. Song Glorious was created by a couple in the US.
We expected to do like 2 or 3 songs a week, do them all ourselves, and we were getting like 5 songs a day and it was way too much to handle.
It only started 2 months ago, but already it's put $23,500 into artists' pockets.
Been such a godsend, really.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
A boatie got a real shock when a whale emerged from the waves and breached just metres from his dinghy.
Oh, I got that!
The skipper managed to capture the close encounter with a large humpback north of Perth, so he'll be able to prove his story about the one that got away. Myer has recorded a huge loss, one of the worst results in its 120-year history. Next, with more stores closing every week, will your favourite retailers survive the COVID recession? Also, the unbelievable price paid for this harbourside mansion. Playing a dangerous game, the criminals dicing with death and putting lives at risk.
Soon in sport, Panthers coach Ivan Cleary opens up on the decision to let captain James Tarmo leave.
Stunning today, a whisker warmer tomorrow, weekend weather soon.
Checking the markets now, and the ASX 200 closed 30 points higher. Tech stocks were among today's top performers. Shares in Rio Tinto were up, with iron ore prices forecast to rise. And our dollar is buying 72.71 US cents. Fuel prices are falling across Sydney. The average is $1.24 a litre. We found regular unleaded for just $1.09.8 in Clovelly and $1.09.9 in Kellyville. A harbourside property at Potts Point has sold for an extraordinary $95 million, Australia's second highest price. Known as Edgewater, it boasts a 40-metre harbour frontage, deep-water jetty and a tennis court. Currently 2 apartments, it's believed the mystery Australian buyer intends converting it into one home after settlement in 2022. Christmas is just 3.5 months away, but retailers are preparing for tough and turbulent times as this pandemic bites even deeper. Among those free-falling, department store giant Myer, which today posted its second largest loss in its 120-year history.
Closing all of its 60 stores for 7 weeks was always going to hurt Myer.
COVID, as the classic accelerator that it is, has accelerated their demise.
Myer posted a $172 million loss, a big slide from last year's $24 million profit. One bright spot, online sales, up 61%. Myer hopes in-store collections of Amazon parcels will lead to more impromptu purchases. But investors saw red, shares tumbling 18%. Its biggest shareholder, Solomon Lew, calling Myer the world's most expensive post office. As sales plummeted, Chief Executive John King took home more than $1 million, even after a pay cut. Today he gave this outlook about the CBD stores. High percentages of the workforce choosing to work from home will simply not come back. Normally in September, retailers are recruiting for the Christmas frenzy, but
unfortunately that won't be the case this year as they're planning for much more subdued trading period.
And the new year is likely to bring even more challenges as the government's job seeker supplement winds up.
halving the income that 1.6 million out-of-work Australians are now receiving.
Retailers say that support is crucial.
Every dollar that goes to social security is spent. We see this as the quickest way to kickstart the retail recovery.
Gemma Acton, 7 News.
There's a warning tonight about a growing and dangerous crime wave. Thieves stealing copper from live power poles. Not only is it seriously risky, it also triggers blackouts and expensive repairs. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. But now Mel is here with sport, and Mel, Curtis Scott can finally move on from that ordeal.
Yeah, he can, Fergo. The Raiders star and his siblings have spoken exclusively with 7 News about the trauma he's been through. We'll hear from them next. Plus, the injury blow for the Eels ahead of the much-anticipated Battle of the West with the ladder leaders. And Alex de Minaur shows his class but bows out at the US Open. Welcome back. Curtis Scott has revealed to 7 News that he risked his NRL career to clear his name of charges of assaulting police officers and offensive behaviour. As you saw earlier, those charges were dropped after the arrest was deemed unlawful. His family is infuriated. The Raiders star spoke exclusively to Chief League reporter Michelle Bishop.
With the darkest chapter of his life now in the rearview mirror, Curtis Scott can finally move on.
I put my whole career on the line to clear my name, and that was a risk I was willing to take.
The Raiders told the 22-year-old he'd be sacked if found guilty of any of 5 charges of assaulting police after a heavy drinking session on Australia Day. The mental toll was enormous.
Everybody on your back, making out you're some monster cop basher. In the back of my mind, I knew that if one of these charges stick, that I'm going to be digging holes for the rest of my life.
Scott's been vindicated in the courts. All charges dropped and his arrest ruled unlawful. But he'd already been smashed in the court of public opinion.
In myself, I'm bitter. I'm bitter that everyone kind of just took their side and didn't even consider my side of the story.
In court today, the magistrate has recoiled in horror when shown the moment Scott was tasered by police, having already been pepper sprayed in the face. This afternoon, I showed that video to his brother and sister.
Pretty hard to stomach, knowing that he's going through that situation, knowing that to help him.
Shattering.
How hard has this been on the family?
It's been so hard, so hard. I can't watch anything, turn it off.
What would you like to see happen to these police officers?
Someone needs to be accountable for it.
Should they lose their jobs?
Absolutely.
I know there's plenty of good police officers out there, and they have the toughest job in the world, and I'm not going to be anti-police or anything like that.
Thankful to the Raiders for sticking by him, Scott just wants to get back playing footy.
I'm forever grateful for them people, because at the end of the day, they are the people that made me turn up and keep fighting.
Michelle Bishop, 7 News.
Well, as first revealed by 7 News, Penrith captain James Tarmo was on the verge of joining the West Tigers on a 2-year deal from next year, while leading the Panthers on their club record 12-match winning streak. In the background, delicate discussions about Tarmo's future have been taking place.
It's a really difficult situation for us. Jimmy's been an integral member of our side.
Eels hooker Reid Marnie is out of tomorrow night's huge clash with the ladder leaders after failing a fitness test on his injured shoulder. Alex de Minaur's run at the US Open has ended in the quarterfinals. The Sydney-born young gun was no match for second seed Dominic Thiem in the first 2 sets, losing them 6-1, 6-2. But as always, the 21-year-old kept fighting hard and had his moments.
Oh, the speed. That is why this guy's going to be in the top 10.
Thiem won in straight sets, 6-1, 6-2, 6-4 to set up a semi-final clash with Daniil Medvedev. Earlier, Serena Williams advanced to her 11th consecutive semi-final at Flushing Meadows with a 3-set win over Svetlana Pironkova. She'll take on fellow former world number 1 Victoria Azarenka next. Caleb Ewan has claimed his 2nd stage win of this year's Tour de France and his 5th overall. After being narrowly beaten yesterday, the 26-year-old from Moss Vale atoned with a perfectly timed run to take out stage 11.
Sagan with the elbows. Ewan gets it.
I just had a real desire to win today after yesterday, and I was quite disappointed with my sprint, and I'm happy to repay my teammates.
Primož Roglic held on to the leader's yellow jersey. Richie Porte remains 11th, nearly 2 minutes back, Fergo. So some mixed results for our Aussies abroad, but can't wait to see Alex Demon. He's only 21 years of age and big raps from the big guns.
Yeah, top 10 would be very nice.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Mel. $6 a kilo for scrap. That's the paltry sum that's driving a sudden spike in the theft of copper. And often the thieves are risking their own lives stealing it from live power lines. It's also hugely inconvenient, triggering blackouts and major expense for repairs.
Shadows in the dead of night, caught on infrared cameras, slicing through a fence at an Ausgrid depot to steal lengths of copper wire. Live power lines.
They're going to end up dead.
They're going to end up dead. It's only a matter of time.
These would-be robbers in Newcastle were just lucky they were only charged by police.
To get 4 or 5 kilos of copper, which is what it is just insane, the risks.
It's a growing trend from desperate thieves. Since 2018, there have been 64 reported cases, costing Ausgrid more than $570,000 to repair. In Hornsby, they used chainsaws to chop down power poles, high-voltage wires slashed at Lake Macquarie, cutting power to more than 1,000 homes and sparking a fire. And for those great lengths, robbers get a pittance, around $6 a kilo for copper at scrap metal yards, although we understand it fetches far more down the line once it's melted and recast.
These guys are prepared to cut down a live power pole to get copper to sell for $40 or $50. It's insane.
They will get caught. Ausgrid will not tolerate this type of behaviour, and we'll work with the police to ensure they're apprehended and put before the courts.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Now here's a look at what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Thanks, Fergo. When you wake up, meet the 12-year-old koala whisperer. She's Australia's new Bindi Irwin.
Our exclusive look inside her incredible world. That's tomorrow on Sunrise. Right now, back to you.
Thank you. David is back now. Brownie, it was very nice in the sun this afternoon.
Oh, yeah, spot on, Fergo. A lengthy dry spell is building. Touch warmer tomorrow. Weekend details after the break.
Tonight on the latest from 7 News, why Woolworths is warning the government about potential Christmas stock shortages. Good news on the COVID vaccine front following the Oxford trials delay, and live to the USA's record-breaking wildfire zone. The latest from 7 News tonight at 10:25.
Who delivers the best? The first independent survey on food delivery for value, speed, service. Surprise results on 7 News at 6.
Tonight's 7 News headlines. The Premier has given her National Party colleagues until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to get back in line or lose their cabinet posts. Queensland is under fire again for stopping a young woman attending her own father's funeral. And League star Curtis Scott has told 7 News he's relieved to have cleared his name after being unlawfully arrested on a drunken night out. Now, the latest on our weather, here's David.
Thanks very much, Fergo. Cold and clear this evening, sunny tomorrow, and it should be a little bit warmer for the weekend. Now, after a low of something like 12.2 degrees, the mercury tapped 19.4. That happened during lunch. You'll notice high teens were the order of the afternoon throughout the suburbs. It was somewhat colder, though, high in the Blue Mountains. Katoomba's maximum only 11 degrees. To the latest satellite data, we keep an eye on this rain band that continues to, well, produce some fairly solid falls to the north of us. Storm activity just a short time ago, just over the border in Queensland. The trough behind this system is gradually contracting north, so that means it'll take the bulk of the wet weather with it tomorrow. You'll notice, though, there's just a few showers just lingering along parts of the north coast. But in the longer term, a return to fine weather is in the wind, although we'll see soaking rain across the southern states and some border areas during the weekend, but not a drop in our backyard for at least the next 5 days. Around the nation, wet in Brisbane tomorrow and rather cool, a maximum of only 20 degrees. 20 also expected in Melbourne. It will be a fine day, becoming rather windy in the morning, cloud increasing, then some rain coming in tomorrow night. That rain will also impact Hobart as well late in the day. A top there of only 19 degrees. For us, we'll see those scattered showers just lingering about the north coast and, of course, the adjoining eastern slopes there of the Great Dividing Range. Fine and sunny elsewhere. In fact, overall, it will be a beautiful spring afternoon. In fact, for us, we're expecting low 20s for most of the metro area. High teens, though, right on the coast. Light winds tending northeasterly. But overall, yes, a beautiful day. And as we go to our coastal forecast, here it is. You'll see the northeasterly is expected to build around 15 to 20 knots offshore. For the city, dry, mostly sunny conditions for your Friday and a forecast top there of around 20 degrees. We're dropping down to around 12 overnight. Let's move on to that 7-day outlook. The thing that stands out, dry. Yes, dry is the weather word. In fact, for the weekend, it should be fine and generally sunny with maximum temperatures in the mid-20s. A little bit cooler early next week, but then it warms up as we head towards Thursday. So steady as she goes, Mel and Fergo.
Looking very good.
Indeed.
Thank you, David. That is 7 News for this Thursday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.